Guys, welcome to Life FM. Welcome to the Sandro and Meghan Show. Yes, it is 1 p.m. Yes, it is Wednesday afternoon, and it's the last Wednesday in July. Can you believe it? We are officially past halfway through the year, and you know what? It's scary, but also at the same time, I'm so excited because I know it's just a few more cold days, and then spring is around the corner, and summer's here, and I cannot wait. Hope you guys are doing well. But before we get there, Megan, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. And I hope that each and every single one of you is having such a wonderful and such a blessed week along with us. And you know what? Well, hate the winter. I'm sorry. I'm not a winter person. This has just been over the last, I would say, over the last few days, this has just been enough for me. I want the sun. I want the...
Oh, just by the way, they busy warning a very cold front coming through the next couple of days. So expect the cold Wednesday, Thursday, I think it's up to Saturday or Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. What I've been hearing and kind of seeing on the phone, there's gonna be a lot of rain in the Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal, which is gonna blow over to us. So expect a cold week. But you know what? We are filled with the warmth of the love of Jesus Christ.
Well, enough of that. Well, at least it's not the weather bureau here. Today we are actually gonna go into a topic. I'm pretty excited about that. This is something that for me personally, it's been quite a fun ride with the Lord over the last while, and I'm excited to share it with you. And the base of the topic is: are we being too hard on ourselves? Like, does it happen? Do we get a little harder on ourselves than maybe even the Lord is? But we're going to get into that right after the break. So I hope that you enjoy the song, and we'll be back right after this.
Guys, welcome back after the break. Welcome back after the beautiful song. Yes, you're still listening to Life FM, and you're still tuning in with Sandro and Meghan on the Sandro and Meghan Show. And if you're listening, you're of course listening on 98.1 FM in the Potchefstroom area. Otherwise, in the Kosh area on 100.6 FM. Otherwise, on the World Wide Web on www.lifefm.co.za. Go onto the website and you'll find so many fascinating things there. And just go check what they all got there. They've put a lot of work into the website. Go check it out. A lot of initiatives, a lot of ways to get involved. And please go check it out. Otherwise, you can also just download the app from the App Store, the Life FM App Store. And you know what? Then you can listen to Life FM everywhere, anywhere, especially on your phone, wherever you're traveling, wherever you're going, especially if you're out of reach. Or you know what? It's just so much easier on the phone and on the app than going on the website. That's the way that I find it. But anyway, let's get back to it. Are we too harsh on ourselves? And I think sometimes the harshest critic I have is myself. And Megan will tell me that a lot. I'm a lot harder on myself than what I am on everyone else. And this is a topic that she's been enjoying quite a lot. And she's going to be doing the majority of the talking, apparently, as normal. So you know what? I want you to think about it. I want you to think about this. You know, sometimes we say, "Yeah, we're hard on our kids and we're hard on this, and our employers are hard on us," and we can carry on with that. But sometimes our harshest critics is ourselves. We will forgive others so easily, but we struggle not just to only forgive ourselves, but to be soft and gentle on ourselves. Megan, what do you say about this?
So, this has been a topic that I feel like the Lord has slowly given me this revelation since I've been saved over the past few years. And it's something that's slowly developed, and it's something that, a lot of the times it happens where we'll feel a certain type of way. Maybe we committed a sin, or we fell back into old ways, and we did things that we didn't necessarily that sanely. When we are spending time with the Lord and we are in the Lord's presence a lot, we wouldn't necessarily go down that route. But then we do something that we might not be extremely happy about ourselves doing, and then it's this thing where the Lord reminds me a lot of a verse in, I believe it's in Corinthians, where He says, "My strength is made strong in your weakness, and my grace is sufficient for you." And a lot of the times, I think we are so hard on ourselves. We you know what, we want to prove something. And I remember there was a little while back where I had I call them grown up tantrums, because I feel like grown ups have tantrums too. And I had a grown up tantrum about feeling unworthy because of a certain style of things that I wanted from the Lord. And I'm praying a specific way of asking for specific things. And what happens next is I say to the Lord, okay, well, obviously you're not blessing me, so I must not be worthy. It must be because XYZ reason. It must be because maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe you'll reject me. See, growing up, I think I had a lot of rejection issues, so that often filters through into my relationship with the Lord. And I'll say often, "Oh well, fine. Then if you're going to reject me, then just get it over with and just go. Then just reject me." And I fight with the Lord. I used to fight with the Lord a lot, and I used to say, "Well, then just reject me. Just go on like everyone else. Just leave me be, and you go on." You know what? I'm sorry. I had the sinful temptation, and I fell for it, and whatever else. And then recently the Lord kind of took me. Now we have a 3-year-old little boy and our son, and the Lord took me from a parenting perspective. And I don't know if you have children or if whoever's listening, if you have a child. And I think the easiest way to understand this is to think from a parenting perspective, because that's the only time it ever finally made sense to me, was that it is irrelevant, very much irrelevant, of what my son does. I'm going to love that child regardless. I'm never going to let that child go. I love him so deeply that I cannot let him go. And I'm not setting this up. We're already preparing. We know he's going to grow up and he's going to go live his own life and he'll have his own family.
Yes, after he's 45 years old.
But for the midst of it, when it comes to loving this child, there's a part of me that nothing that this child can ever do can separate the love that I have for him. And this is what the Lord has remember, this is what the Lord promises us in Romans that he has for us.
As Romans 8, I think it's from 31 or 34, he says, but nothing can separate us from the love of God.
And again, thinking from a parenting perspective, that when I look into my little boy's eyes, and he's got the biggest, brownest eyes, and he trust me, he knows how to use his eyes. He's figured it out. He knows how to persuade his mommy with his eyes.
It's called manipulation, but that's a topic for another day.
I don't believe kids can manipulate, but anyway. But he looks at me with these big brown eyes, and even when he's throwing tantrums, when he's having a day and he's in a bad mood and he's in a bad way, or he does something that I explicitly told him not to do, not because I was trying to be a cruel parent, but because obviously I wanted to protect him, things that I wanted to make sure that he doesn't get hurt and he doesn't fall in any harm's way. And oftentimes I think about when I reflect on how we parent and how deeply we love our children, I can only imagine when the word says we don't even understand half of how much God loves us. This is the closest thing, the purest form of love that I can imagine that God has blessed us with. In a sense that we ourselves can kind of a little bit, a drop in the bucket, understand the love that God has for us. And now you have to understand there's still a whole other bucket full of love that the Lord has. We only understand the smallest drop. But as parents, or as people rather, oftentimes we'll throw a tantrum. And I mean, you can say whatever you want. We're all Christians here. We've all grown in our relationship with Christ. We've all thrown tantrums and to a degree been mad at God, cursed God, had this moment. Well, if you don't want to love me, then don't love me. If you don't want to bless me, don't bless me. We've all had this conversation with God, I feel like. But the reality and the fact of the matter is a lot of the times we're the ones harder on ourselves than what God actually is. So I see it with my son as well. When we do this thing called good gossiping, where when my son, especially when he's had a bad day, I'll lie next to him and we'll pray and we'll talk to Jesus, and I'll tell Jesus just how amazing Caleb is. And I'll see in that moment, I'll see how his little confidence, where he had nearly no confidence because of the way that he acted, because he was naughty and maybe in a tantrum, in a bad way, he hit me or whatever because he's only 3 years old. Or he was throwing a tantrum the whole day. He was being naughty the whole day. But then I'll lie next to him and I'll speak to the Lord and I'll tell the Lord in front of my son how amazing and how beautiful and how wonderful my son is. And you can see his whole mood starting to shift. And all of a sudden, my son is holding his worth back in his hands. And see, the thing is the Lord does this to us too. The Lord will take us, especially on our, and this, I've been irritated at God for giving me grace when I acted like that, when I threw tantrums. Because I'm like, but I don't deserve grace. I don't deserve your love. I don't deserve your compassion. But then the Lord gives me all of these beautiful, wonderful words telling me, but you are worthy. You are still my daughter. You are still my child. You are still more than what you are currently believing that you are. One bad action doesn't make a bad human being. And this is something that, it doesn't build a bad character. You just had a bad day. And oftentimes we take one bad day out of 100 bad days and we decide that bad day is our true character. And we tell God, but you cannot love me because this is my true character. When in reality, we are human beings and we just have bad days in between. And it's completely okay sometimes to have a bad day. That's the way the Lord made us. He made us intentionally imperfect. He made us this way because He knew there's no way we can be perfect the way He has called, the way we want to be perfect. But we're going to get into this a bit more after the break. I hope that this is making you think a little bit, and I hope that your coffee is still warm, and I hope that you're having a great lunch so far. We'll be back right after this.
Guys, welcome back after the break. Yes, you're still listening to Life FM. You're still listening to the Sandro and Meghan Show. It is Wednesday. It is halfway through the week, and we are so excited because it's not going to say nearly weekend, but it's nearly the end of July, and what a month it's been. Guys, August, new blessings, new season. Oh man, I cannot wait. I am so excited. Like I was telling Megan on in the break, for some reason I got this nervousness about me, but it feels like a good nervousness, and I just cannot wait. I cannot explain it, and I hope if you're feeling it, you just know it's always going to be to the glory of God. I just know great things are going to happen. But we're going to continue with what Megan was going on before the break. So Megan, please carry on.
The biggest reality check that the Lord gave me recently was a lot of the times we expect ourselves before God to be gods. And we expect ourselves to act as though we are gods, as though we are already perfect, as though we have already crossed over into the New Jerusalem. Because see, we have this expectation, and the one thing that I will say is I do feel like it is a lack of knowledge and understanding on God's behalf from us onto God rather. Because we don't realize God intentionally created us to be imperfect. Can we just please reloop and come back to this, that we were created to be imperfect. We were created to need God, to need Jesus. And had we been perfect from look, there was obviously before the sin that Adam and Eve were perfect, but God knew that they were going to fall to sin, and God had already before they even fell to sin, God already had a plan to bring us out of sin. He already had this all figured out because He already knew, because He is the master creator. He already knows what is going to happen. He already knows what decisions we are going to make, and He works around those decisions. But see, the thing is, us as human beings, we decide, no, but we have to be perfect in order for God to love us. We have to act a certain way to be worthy to God. We have to say, and I know that there was a stage where I was getting irritated being a Christian, because I'm like, well, how do I pray then? Because every other place says, but if you don't finish your prayer off in this way, God's not going to bless you. And if you don't say this in your prayer, God's not going to listen. And there's all of these lies from the enemy that come all from religious bigots, where it's all about how we act rather than the fact that God already has grace for us. He loves us as we are because that's the way He created us. See, we often overlook the fact that God Himself made us. He spent time with us in His own creation, putting every single strand of hair, one for one, onto your head. And you want to be mad about the fact, and you want to feel unworthy about the fact that you felt a temptation, or you had a bad day and you threw a tantrum, and now all of a sudden you come across to have this terrible character. But you don't realize that this is the way that God has made you. He created you intentionally the way that you are. He's allowed you to go through the trials and temptations that you've gone through, not for your glory, not for your discomfort, not for anything, but to glorify the kingdom of God once you come through on the other end.
For you to rely on Him and call on Him. And if you can read the book of Ecclesiastes, this is what we actually base it on, where he starts off everything is meaningless, and he goes through 12 chapters of everything is meaningless. And right at the end is, well, it comes down to accept your relationship with God. Everything becomes meaningless. And yet, we want to say, yeah, but I've dropped God and I've messed up so much. How can God love me? How can He forgive me? How can He, you know what, carry on blessing me? I mean, there was a stage when Meghan surprised me, and one night we lying in bed, and I think we prayed, and after we prayed, she was smiling. She says, well, she wasn't really smiling, but she said, but why is God blessing us so much? And I was confused. It's like the exact thing we pray. We all want to be blessed, abundantly blessed, and when He does, she felt so unworthy of it. And I mean, coming back to Caleb, he can be how naughty, we will still bless him abundantly. Yes, he's got to know right from wrong. We do discipline him. He gets a little pat on the nappy now and then, reminding him that he can't just get his way every single time. But God is a loving Father. Doesn't He do the same with us? And even though at times we feel like we don't deserve it or we don't feel good enough, you know what? He's got a father's heart. He's got a parent's heart. And any parent's heart, and I mean, I've spoken to, there was one mother in particular where her son had a rough, he had a rough life, and he ended up on the streets living as a hobo. And as much as his other siblings, some of them, I think 2 of them, thrived very well, did well for themselves in a worldly sense, and the other one was doing okay and leading a normal life. He just decided to go the opposite way. But then every time she spoke about the son that she had, the hobo, because everyone would refer to him as the hobo son, you could see the softness and the love she had for him. And she never saw him as less worthy than any of her other children. She never did. And this is difficult because, I mean, some people take great offense. I mean, your siblings are doing well, and yet you're choosing this horrible path when they are offering you, and they will open doors for you so you can make something of your life. And he just went on his own way. But the love she had for him. And then I can take the same, we can go look at Rahab, the prostitute. The love God had for her, even though she was part of the enemy, and she obeyed, she listened and she obeyed the great Shammah or the great Shema. That it's just depending on the way you want, depending the way you want to pronounce it. But she listened and obeyed, and she had so much love, and all of a sudden she's mentioned in the Great Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11. And then you start reading the book of Ruth, who wasn't actually an Israelite, and how much love he had for her, that even Jesus was she was one of the descendants of Jesus, Christ himself. And we start seeing the love he has for everyone. And then yet we feel at times we don't feel worthy enough. Or otherwise we get the opposite. We get this ugliness to us where we feel better than others spiritually, but I'm better than that person because I go to church and I do this, and my relationship with God is better than the other one. Is my relationship to God is better than that person, and look at what that person does. It's like, you know what? Forget about it. It's meaningless, guys. We are called to help them up. We are called to play. That's part of building up the kingdom, is helping those people. If they don't want to listen, it's up to them. But we must still play our part. And just the love. I mean, I just look at the love I have for my child. I look at the love I have for my wife. Except in arguments where she believes I don't love her that much, apparently. But that's a discussion for another day. And then I look at the love I have for my 3 other little babies. We got 3 dogs. And I mean, they were there from the beginning, before I met my wife. And you know what? The love I have for them. And it's just, I cannot imagine life without them. And at the same time, I cannot imagine life without God, without including God in every single area of my life. Yes, I do struggle. I do fall. At times, I go on my own path. But then when I come to my senses, metamoia is a Greek word. I think it's in Romans. And when I come to my senses, you know what? Why am I trying to do everything without God? And that's the mindset we should have. Everything we do, we should do it with Him. Guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this show. I hope you guys have taken something from this. And you know what? May it bless you, and cannot wait to speak to you next month again. Blessings.